Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today we have a selection from John, and the name of this band and the track are both in Romanian, and I have such a trouble with this language, so I'm going to let Google take it away. We're going to be checking out
Negură Bunget, Intoarcerea Amurgului,
which is described as Romanian folk black metal. So, let's dive into that. Got not a super long one, but 8.5 minutes, a little bit of a length to this. Let's dive into it, see what's going on with this track. I really like the rhythm of that low instrument. Well, it's gone now, but we'll see where it takes us. Ooh, beautiful resolution there. Heavy use of dyads with a consistent rhythmic pattern of eighth notes. I think very black metal, but done so in a way that doesn't quite follow the same ideas. Yeah. A really nice divide here between the uplift and the little bit of darkness, the grounding. It's also in 5 right here. Just got pushed to 6. Yeah, the flute is a nice addition. Dyads. This is honestly kind of fun. Yeah, we got some bells in there. Layers popping in and out. Ornamental drumming in that last section. Very nice idea to allow the instrumentation to take spotlight. Really leaning into the tension of that last section, not allowing resolution for an extra bar. Got the constant bass kicks. Dude, this is just gorgeous. That's so good. So this comes off of their 2010 album, but they do have a 2021. I'm gonna have to check this out. As far as conversation goes, analysis, I think I just want to stick onto one thing. It's pretty much going to touch on everything I want to, but it's just a nice umbrella topic. And I don't know, we may end up with just one timestamp for this section, which I apologize if it ends up being quite lengthy of an analysis and I don't have nice ways to chop it up, but I am just kind of picturing everything under one big topic here. This is black metal, 100%. if we translated all of this to electric instruments with distortion and overdrive, and we took the vocals and harshened them up a bit, we would have a black metal track, no questions asked. I think the only thing we would have to change is to speed everything up. There's a lot of usage of eighth notes here, whereas black metal tends to use 16th notes, but honestly, that's such a small change to what's going on that I don't think it would disrupt anything. It would keep a lot of the integrity of the track consistent. What we have here, though, is a lot of dyads, a lot of consistently moving dyads. A lot of the string work here is eighth notes, constant, all the time, with no extra emphasis on any specific beat. We hear movement of no intervals between them. Sometimes they'll be a whole step apart, sometimes they'll be a whole and a half apart, sometimes they'll be two whole steps apart, and that changes with every note. And so we get this fluctuating note interval between our two main guitar instruments sitting on the bottom, and that's what gives us the really neat chord progression throughout most of this track. It's exactly how black metal operates. A lot of dyads sitting on single notes, playing them over and over and over, and changing up the distance between the two notes to create moving patterns. We layer up more ideas on top of this, which is not so much traditional black metal, but we hear a lot of in more experimental styles of black metal, especially ones that incorporate folk elements, symphonic elements, melodic elements, just anything that kind of pushes past the standard two guitar concept. Anytime there's a third melodic instrument added into it, sometimes even the bass, but bass in black metal is a bit rare, but occasionally this is the instrument that carries a melody on top of our dyads. Now here we push that just a little bit further and bring in more of that folk aspect, and there are times when we have three-way counterpoint on top of our dyads. So it definitely leans a bit more into folk, but I think the foundation of this basic premise here is firmly rooted in black metal, and in fact, after we got through our intro, I think one of the first things I said is, wait, this is black metal. And so it's sort of undeniable. I think even someone like me who has such a cursory understanding of the genre, though maybe that's a lie, I think I might be one of the few reactors on YouTube who has a pretty strong grasp on black metal. Anyways, though, I can immediately hear the black metal in this, despite no constant 16th notes, no blast beats, no alternating snare and bass, a clear production, no distortion, wall of sound fuzziness. Like, there's a lot of the sound of black metal that's missing here, but the composition is just undeniable. It is right there from the start, and we explore it throughout the entirety of the track. This idea of constant eighth notes replacing the 16th notes is something that we hear in a lot of the instruments, including the drums at times. At the end, we had the bass kicks going on with this rigidity. It is just fascinating to me how I can continue to hear this in every new section, no matter how much folk inspiration there is. Like I mentioned, we have one part where we have the dyads underneath and three-way counterpoint on top, utilizing flutes and all sorts of different stringed instruments that aren't guitars, it sounds like, and there's a choir in here, and no matter how far away we lean into that more pure folk side, there's this blackened energy underneath all of it. It's just fascinating. And that kind of leans into the production side. This isn't black metal production. It's a bit clear everywhere. It's a little muddy at times. It doesn't go for an exceptionally clear sort of delineation between all the instruments. They sort of do kind of bleed over into each other's sound a little bit. It's more of a mid-fi mix. It's enough to... Well, this is interesting. It's enough that I can hear everything individually, but it also doesn't feel like a live performance. And I think what I mean by that is it feels like every instrument is individually recorded and then mixed together, rather than every instrument being on a stage and being recorded with a couple of mics instead of individual ones. I think that when you get something like that, even with more, individual mics on the stage, but just having them record like that, you tend to get more of an individuality to the sounds. Whereas with this, everything feels very blendy. Everything sort of bleeds into one another. And I don't think that I can infer anything. You can certainly take a live recording and make it sound like this, and you can certainly take studio recordings and make it sound more individuated, but I don't think that's a word. But that's kind of the feeling I get out of this. It's not as crisp as I would expect, but it's fine. It all sort of blends together and gives it a little bit of that lo-fi taste to it without becoming a muddied, garbled mess. And I think that's something that I really enjoy about this, is that it feels like something where production is taken care, but not aiming for that perfection, which is a very black metal perspective to take on the production. It absolutely works for this. Honestly, it feels like I found a cassette in the woods. I don't know why I keep coming back to that phrase, in the woods. Like, you can find cassettes anywhere. I don't know what it is about finding cassettes in woods that just, I don't know, it ensnares me. I can't get away from that concept. It just sounds so interesting and yet creepy. I don't want the creepy vibe to be added to this because, like, there's nothing in here that I thought was really creepy or eerie or pushing towards that direction, but I don't know. Let's get back on topic with the track. I gotta figure out what my hang-up is with that concept. The song moves through quite a bit of variety, at least it sounds like to me. This is interesting because it's not really part of either folk or black metal. At least to me, folk tends to be based around repetition, especially when you're looking at older music that would be used for rituals or dance or even entertainment. Something bardic would have a repetitive musical aspect to sing your poetry over. So a lot of folk music tends to be very repetitive, and black metal having I feel like I'm going to be a little off. Having ties to thrash metal, which tends to stick with the ABABCB pattern, lots of repetition of riffs. A lot of the black metal we listen to also tends to work within those realms of structure. There is, of course, more experimental and proggy black metals, but generally black metal is also a style of music that tends to sit within repetition and familiarity of riffage. So I find it really interesting that this track seems to betray all of that and write something that to my ear feels linear. It's still based on these short ostinatos for each section, but I don't see a movement of, say, verse, chorus, where we are repeating ideas in an older section in a new one. That's not to say that this song is completely devoid of repeated aspects or, say, foreshadowing, for example. There's a lot going on in several of these sections, and it's quite possible that we heard a variation of an idea, or maybe even an exact replica of an idea in a future section that I just missed. But at least to me, everything sounds unique, pushing forward, highly linear style of writing. And so it gives me a bit of personality of the band, right? Because say they wanted to write black metal, but they really like folk music and they smash them together. Well, you can very easily just write black metal with folk instrumentation, which is what I kind of thought we were getting in for at the beginning. But by the end of it, I realized that there's another part of this band that is looking outside of both of those inspirations and bringing something new to each of them, which I just really appreciate. I think that's a fantastic way to go about doing so. When you are working to combine influences, it's always good to also look at influences outside of what you're trying to smash together. And at least to me, this also kind of bleeds over into a little bit of the black metal aspect, but it seems like the composer of this group has a bit of a penchant for classical music. I don't know if they necessarily listen to a lot of it, but they certainly seem to have some influence in their writing that shows through in both the structure and some of the melodic ideas in isolation. It's a fascinating work that brings together a lot of sounds in a way that is palatable to my ear. And this is what I mean often when I say that I like black metal, but it's the black metal that isn't black metal. Um, Pretty much everything associated with traditional black metal, whether it's first wave, second wave, third wave, none of it really clicks with me. I get it. I know why people like it. I can come at it from that perspective. And it's not like every band does the exact same thing. There's nuanced differences, between bands and albums and stuff, but on the whole, it just isn't a genre for me, but I love what's happening on the extremities, on the periphery of the genre, when we look at stuff that's more avant-garde or progressive or experimental. And I think this is a good showcase of that. It takes the sound of black metal and just re-envisions it in a completely different context, and it works for me both on a sonic and a compositional level. The shift from 16th notes to 8th notes, the addition of lots of layers of melody, taking away the traditional black metal harsh vocal and putting in spoken word is such a novel idea. And even the shift from exceptionally rigid drumming, which we do here and here, to the occasional use of this atmospheric drumming, occasionally putting a cluster of notes and then no percussion at all for another bar or so before another cluster of notes, it's such a novel concept that it utilizes the overall sound of black metal, which I don't dislike. I don't like either. It's sort of neutral to me, but applies it to a composition that does click with me. And so we have black metal that I like, even if I'm sure many cult black metal purists are going to find that this isn't blackened enough for them, which I'm 100% okay being on the weird outskirts of the genre. I'm going to hit some lyrics right here. We're going to see what's going on. I'm pretty sure they're in Romanian, so I'll have to get them translated, and then we'll wrap this one up. And we have a track that is lyrically cryptic in a spiritual kind of way. There speaks about actually directly a spirit, and trying to possibly connect with this spirit, with this other world. Honestly, there's a lot of really cryptic descriptions of things and events. For instance, it says, "The dew is falling in the amazement that can be seen after midnight from deep into the world. The trees on the road cast shadows and cling to the path that one of no return, and again he plunged into the heart of forest. The clear sky tilts. He worships the earth when it rises." It's very metaphorical in a way that goes over my head a bit, but I can appreciate the visualization of it all. Um, just the immensely non-physicality of it all. Even something as simple as trees on the side of a road, they're not just there, they cling to the path. It is all of this heightened visual elements of the natural world around, the dew and the night, wells, trees, paths, hearts of a forest, skies. Everything is very natural based here, and we're looking at a heightened description of it all. But eventually, a spirit closes, and time runs out, and we end on the few lines where the eye does not see and the mind does not penetrate, bent and thus whole, crooked and thus straight, empty and thus full, shadow to pass through dew and fog, the meaning is thawing. Doing the wrongdoing, or possibly another translation would be unmaking the unmaking. Fulfillment by unfulfillment is fulfilled. It's a really interesting way to wrap this up, and like I said, I don't quite understand all of it. We definitely have a heightened description of nature. Could possibly be the immediate surroundings around this person. It could be a type of ritual to experience a heightened level of spirituality and meditation, to reach a point of understanding the world not through our five senses, but through a sixth connection with nature, to be able to see what the eye cannot and think where the mind cannot penetrate, to work within contradictions, to be crooked and straight, empty and full, and to find fulfillment in unfulfilling situations, to unmake the unmaking. I love that phrase. It's seemingly profound. It probably has a pretty strong meaning to it. All I really get is a loose connotation though, but the idea of undoing that which undoes other things it's powerful. Wrap this up though, I don't know what it all means. It's interesting to read, and there's also probably some stuff lost in translation that probably, it could help with some of the understanding, but might also help with some of the flow. Although, even just the way that it's translated, it has a nice spoken word element to it as far as even rhythmic cadence goes. It actually translated rather nicely, I think. I don't know how this ties back to the music, though. They feel wholly separate to me, but there's also just the folk element here and all the instruments that also tend to be utilized or are associated with the concepts of natural ritualistic ideas, to, re-engage with the natural world or the spiritual side. That could also just come together in a way as well. Anyways, those are my thoughts on this track. Again, I can't pronounce the band or the song, so I'll just end with the track. What did you guys think though? Let me know in the comment section your thoughts, perspectives, if you enjoyed it, your opinions, anything else, put them down there. Above that, in the description box, there's a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, with the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.